All right, it is Sunday, the weekend of December 10th, and welcome to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Sorry about the lack of uploads recently, been a hectic holiday season, more consistency going forward, but let's go ahead and look at the price action for the indexes this week. Starting with the NQ price, what do you see there?
Well, here on the NQ, what we've seen is a lot of sideways consolidation action here at the top of this range, which is, kind of boring as it's happening. But now that we've broken out up above that range, we've got some pretty exciting stuff to look at here. This green line here, this support, was the low, and you can see that price came down and tapped that level, which failed to break out here. Was the level that last tried to hold but failed. So we know this is a significant level, and it came up above, came back down, and held the low of the move that brought it up. So that's a really significant hold right here, and would have been the perfect long to take. If we hadn't seen that close hold up here, we would have probably seen price come back down to this fib right here, down in the 15,500 area, and that would have been the next opportunity to see a hold, along with corresponding with all these highs that we have in here. You can see how many times price has rejected that level, so that's why we would expect it to hold this time now that it's up above there. But what we've got now is we've got a small breakout here. It is a contract change, so that is part of it there, but that low is looking pretty juicy to keep going up and to keep pushing to all-time high here. You can see how impressive that looks on the weekly. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take this green level, and we're going to move him up to about right there. And that's what you want to see hold to continue higher. We don't really want to keep coming down low. We want to hold the highs and produce higher. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. The one thing I do want to point out as well is, this level, the reason that's marked here, and we can see based on price action recently that is certainly the area that's being respected. Every time that it attempted to push higher, it got sold off. And again, we did finally break above cleanly, came back, retested it, and just, closed up again. So that's a good sign. But the reason that we have that there is, we're talking about levels to hold, areas to gain. This was the level to hold that ultimately failed way back in 21-22, like the change of the year essentially there. So that is the significant level on the higher time frames, and we've finally gotten back above it. So like Price is saying, I think it's certainly possible that we could come back and sort of test these areas again now that we've broken out. This is starting to look like a potential confirmation for even higher, right? We want to get a few more closes up here before we're absolutely certain. Otherwise, it could be a false breakout, but we could absolutely see it come back down here to sort of 15,900-ish, and then kind of, use that as a nice springboard to go back to all-time highs again. Or we could break below these lows, or the area to hold, as you pointed out, Price, and come back down toward this fib level at 15,400, 500-ish, anywhere in there. But we've been saying for quite a while that there really hasn't been a breakdown of the trend. We finally, with the close last week, this is one of the first confirmations in a while since this whole bearish downtrend, that we've gotten a new higher high on the higher time frames. So this looks really clean. I think that no matter what short-term price action we see, I think we're headed right back to the highs on NQ. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
look at that. S&P futures. Any differences here you see?
It's pretty similar price action. You can see it already where, we've got the same levels where it rejected and all that. There's slight variances. You'd want to really see that level kind of hold, and at least you wouldn't want to see closes below there, to be able to keep this bullish trend, if you will, alive. Seeing closes down below the support here would indicate that there's a strong chance that we would see some more lows come in before it would continue. but we want to see this hold and not close below. It's pretty similar to what we've got on the NQ. Almost exactly the same.
I mean, it really is the same. I mean, the levels aren't quite linearly correlated, but I mean, the only thing to talk about, I think, is just, like you said, you don't really want to see closes below this area. If we do, based on the same kind of price action, this area down here at 4,500 is probably the next area to look for along if we did break that down there. So right now it looks like we could see higher even if we retest these areas, and if not, then look at 4,500. Don't see too much else. There's not really a ton of differences between the NQ and the ES these days. But let's go ahead and move on to the small caps. They have been a lot more interesting since they've been beaten down recently. You had a call before we took our quick little break here about maybe potentially seeing this being a low and a good buy area. Looks like your call played out. Whoa.
Sorry about that.
All good. Dang ads. You see anything anything different? Anything pop out at you as changing your opinion? Or you still have the same idea?
Yeah, we've got the last time we met, it was right in here, and you can see what's happened is that low held and produced higher highs, and now we're up here, found support at 1850, and if we can, let's see, it still looks like it's good to keep going. It did briefly come down below this level, but it's back up above it. So we would expect these wicks to hold and to produce higher highs. It's produced this nice little trend there that let's see what it looks like on the weekly.
Pretty clean moves for sure.
So it came down and kind of did a liquidity slurp. What's really interesting is it's back up above this level here. That's a really good indication that it's going to keep going. Because if it weren't going to keep going, we would have seen it probably come back on us a good ways there on that level. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I see the same as you. I think what's really telling as well is, again, looking at this weekly chart, every time that we've come back down here, we still don't have two closes below this key area. So, that's another, kind of slurp looking move, and could see us definitely go back toward 2000s again sooner rather than later. I think, just looking at the larger trend, probably see something happen around 1924-ish. Can either come back down for support or use that to kind of come back down to the lows. But based on the trend reversal at this point, it looks like it wants to go back to the highs. Unfortunately, RTY has been consolidating sideways for quite some time now, and it is just back in the range. We'll have to kind of see what happens. But like you pointed out, that was a great area for a long. Certainly played out, and I think we're headed up from here.
Yeah, I think I like 2040 as the next spot for strong resistance, right about there. You can see how it's been working on that area for a while, trying to break out above it. And this might be the fuel we need to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, level can only be tested so many times, so we'll have to see.
All right.
Let's go ahead and look at gold. Gold's been interesting. We've been calling for it potentially breaking out to a new high for a little bit now, and we were right about this kind of liquidity grab potentially being enough fuel after rocketing back up into these areas. And we made a new high. New all-time high on gold is around 2150. It did sell off very strongly into that level. Even you can see the significant volume increase on that candle, but we haven't completely dove below any important levels to lose yet. I think the perfect area is around 206. I have a level marked here at 212. That's just for a trade idea that I was coming up with potentially, but I think that gold is, even though we've made a new all-time high and sold off hard, I think we'll probably end up holding up here and even run higher than this. I think that we could see gold really, really run here in the next year, potentially, make even greater highs than this, especially if these levels hold up in this range, like the high 1900s, low 2000s. We could just see that kind of get scooped up and run right back to the highs. And if that's a lot of volume there, that's a lot of sellers taken out. So there's going to be even less resistance there. We'll have to see what happens. What do you think?
I think this is shaping up to look like just a beautiful stair step upward. You see how it made this giant leap up, and now it's got to make a step back before it can keep going. And this area right here is picture perfect for a hold and higher levels.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we see the same thing then. We'll just have to see what happens to gold. I do think that we're gonna see it run pretty soon, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and look at the Dow. Interestingly, this is actually, of all the major indexes, the closest to its all-time high. It's, what is that, less than 150 points away from its all-time high, and that is like one of the cleanest looking, reversals that you've seen, that I've seen on any chart. That is really strong. Kind of came into these important areas and just rode up higher, just blasted up higher. I mean, at this point, I feel like it's guaranteed to at least tap this all-time high and retrace back. Well, maybe not retrace back, but at least tap the all-time high. Could come back and retrace and then move to new highs or just blast through it. I mean, technically speaking, this looks like a great, start of a. We really needed to kind of break this high, and that's what we've done. So there's no reason for me to think that the Dow is going down anytime soon, and even all the lows, like on the higher time frames, the lows are higher as well. So not too much to cover about the Dow. Then just looks like it's going to continue full steam ahead. What do you think?
I like it up here at these ranges. I wonder if it is just one of those liquidity grabs to the shorts in the short period. What we could see is it come up and then come back down.
Yeah.
But on the weekly, I do think that this low is going to hold. I do believe that we could see price come back down. But I agree with you. I think it's going to all-time high. I think it'll this next week will be really interesting to see how it closes on the weekly. And I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild week. To say nothing, about the fundamentals. The Feds are speaking. So if nothing else, there'll be a ton of volatility this week, for sure. So we could see a lot of these levels that maybe even look far away get touched pretty quickly here if there's enough volume. So we'll have to see what happens. It's going to be interesting.
Right.
Let's go ahead and look at oil. We'd had some great calls on oil for a while, and then it just kept losing levels. It looked like it really wanted to go higher, and then I think when we lost kind of this area in the 82, that was the beginning of losing the trend. So, at this point, we continue to make lower lows and lower highs. We've put in what could potentially be a bottom there at 68, high 68s. That is, just kind of a returning to the consolidation that we've seen, or this price range of consolidation that we've seen back in late 22 and early 23. So we're just gonna have to see what happens here. Does this area hold as a bottom again? Are we gonna move higher, or are we gonna make even lower lows? I think the area to gain again is still gonna be $80, like it had been in the past. We've got to really kind of close cleanly above if we're gonna move higher. Otherwise, I'm not really touching oil at this point. I think I want to see it make a stronger move to the upside. I'm not playing it short either. What do you think?
Well, I like the weekly here. I like how we've got these lows in here that produce this major leg up. That was, a higher high. It didn't hold up there. So if we'd have seen closes up in this range, I think this would have held right here, and we would have seen higher, but it didn't, and so that's why we've come back down. So I do like these lows being the low and held. What I would like to see is price, just like you said, but just a little bit lower. I'd like to see price come up above here and then hold. And then I could see it continuing upward at about 73, 60, 74, really, is what I'd say there.
Yeah.
I think we could see that closes up above 74 and then hold 74 and continue up. And I think that would be good for long targeting the 90s area. Not as your first profit target, but I think that.
No, I know what you mean. I think I'd like to see something like this essentially. So we've come down here. I'd love to see it kind of come up above the $73 level and touch 80 and pull back to that area. I'd really like to see that, and then that'd be and that would kind of play out with your exact idea of wanting to see it close above there first and then come back for a retest. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking for before I consider taking any position on oil at this point.
Right, and I think that's likely because we did see this huge move produce a higher high up above this move here. So that's why I think it's a good place to look.
Yeah, well, I should clarify with my points earlier about oil being disappointing in the short term. I still think oil's going to end up moving to newer highs in the long term. May have just taken a detour on that, but I still believe that we're going to see $100 on oil sooner rather than later. Those are my thoughts, though. Let's go ahead and look at the dollar. We finally, after consolidating for a while, broke down, and we're in the process of making potentially a trend reversal to the bearish side. Now, what I think could happen here, now that we've kind of lost these levels, is if we're going to continue moving down, it's been quite a sharp move. So I think we could probably see something. Looks like this. We could probably go back to the 105 or 105.5-ish area before breaking lower. That's kind of my thought on the dollar right now. I think I had a level at 103.6 before, just based on price actions, behavior, and where things have kind of ended up. It looks like that level may have been incorrect. I think this level at 103.9 is more accurate, based on some of the price action wicking that I've seen. But right now, important thing is, we've just seeing this stair-stepping up and these really strong moves to the downside. That kind of tells me that the dollar kind of does want to sell off, right? Bears are taking the elevator here, so I think that a test back here at 105-ish, 105.5 maybe, even before moving further down, is likely at this point. But we'll just have to see. What do you think about the dollar?
I think it's on its way back up. I think it's gone as far down as it's going to. You can see right here, very kind of similarly to oil, where we've got this level here where it went below. Let me, like that, and then it's kind of bounced there. So what I would expect is a hold somewhere in here, and then at least 105 is what I think, to test this area right in here, this low that produced the leg up,
right,
as well as this last area that tried to
yeah, well, so 105.5 is like the area that was lost, right? That produced that move. Right. But you're right, 105 was the area that held to produce the new high on the recent leg. So they're kind of both worth paying attention to in that regard.
Right.
Cool. Wait, so just so I understand, it's not. Do we disagree on this a little bit? Do you think it's going to go higher? Because I think at this point we might actually see it go lower, but.
Yeah, I think it's more likely it'll go to 105 than it would be to produce a new low.
Okay.
Below 102
Gotcha.
and a half.
All right. Interesting. Yeah, I actually think we're going to probably produce. I don't want to say, if we're looking at the weekly chart, probably some equal low somewhere down here, and then move higher. But yeah, I think we're coming back up to 105 at least before anything like that happens. But we'll have to see.
All right.
KRE. I think before that we took our little break, we had talked about 45 really needing to be gained to kind of recapture the uptrend. And we've done that. So a lot of gapping too, really big moves on KRE, just noticing that. Anyway, this is a nice low here, at an important level, so that makes sense. We kind of wicked in there and got bought up, good sign. Closing above the range that we thought was make or break, and then closing above the level that needed to be gained to confirm an uptrend. I see at this point, if we can clear above here, It's 49.60. We'll call that $50, right? Just somewhere around the $50 area. If we can get closes above that and make a new local high, then I think we're going back to 56.5. You think?
Yeah, I think it could come back down to 45 before doing that, but absolutely, I think this is the interesting area that needs to break before we see higher. And it, you know, really looks like 56 is going to be tapped sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I'm not saying it has to blast through to a new high, a new local high right now. I think you're right that it could absolutely come back to 45. Looking at that weekly chart right there, doesn't that look like the perfect level for it to do that? So we could see it kind of retrace back there and then tap that for some liquidity to move back up. Doesn't really seem like a bearish move at all. I mean, that's a higher low on the weekly as well, so
right,
may see a reversal and get back to 56.5.
I think so.
I don't really have any other comments about that or anything else, so I think that we will wrap up. Thanks again for tuning into the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you do like this kind of content, sub to the Hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. We'll see you next week.